Imagine being financially successful. You lose your job, yet you're required to continue paying child support at the rate of an income you no longer earn. Welcome to the Custodial Support Forum, where each episode we discuss issues related to one of the largest problems in America, child support. Hi, my name is Kai Patterson, and I'm your host. In this episode, we'll discuss the resources available to non-custodial parents that owe child support arrears. And we're going to discuss how to avoid the pitfalls within the child support system if you are a non-custodial parent.
Are you owed child support?
Does the non-custodial parent of your children avoid your calls, hide their income and assets, or has relocated to prevent paying child support?
The Custodial Support Foundation provides you with the services to begin receiving the child support your children need.
Call 855-851-HELP now to receive the help your children deserve.
Welcome. Today we're going to have a 2-episode, 4-part series related to non-custodial parents. To discuss these issues, I have Alexandra Stremler, who's a family law attorney with more than 19 years experience in child support related issues. I have Antoinette Dismukes, a custodial parent who's currently owed more than $62,000 in child support arrears. I have Ariel Shockett, who is a non-custodial parent that was required to continue paying child support at a salary rate which he no longer earned. And I have Daryl Yerberton, who is a non-custodial parent that has never owed child support arrears and yet still was not treated fairly as a non-custodial parent. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Ken.
you.
You know, this is a very interesting topic. Should a non-custodial parent be required to pay child support if they are no longer employed?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I would have to say yes.
Why would you say yes?
Because I am a custodial parent
Okay.
who is unemployed
Okay.
and who still have to take care of my son. So it shouldn't matter whether someone is employed or unemployed. At the end of the day, that child still have to be taken care of.
Okay, so what you're saying is just because you're a custodial parent, you
Why
still have
should a
your...
non-custodial parent be allowed to not be obligated to pay child support because they may be unemployed, whether it's male or female, because that custodial parent
Okay.
in which that child lives in that home with them, whether they're employed or unemployed, they still have to provide for that child.
Okay.
I'm going to have to agree with Antoinette and except say absolutely yes.
Okay.
Very strong absolutely yes. But I also understand that with a change in circumstances, that child support obligation needs to be modified in order to reflect the current income status.
Okay.
So,
I would agree with that, but again, still the child still has to be taken care of, so you have to find a way.
Right, but I do believe that unemployment is not an excuse for shirking your responsibilities. But I also know that there are mechanisms to make it doable so that everybody's contributing whatever piece of the pie they have towards the child. That's the goal.
Okay. Ariel, it's my understanding that you were once married and were a hedge fund broker. You got a divorce, and your child support order required that you continue paying the same amount of child support that you were required to pay when you were working, even though you were no longer employed.
Right.
Tell us about the story.
You know, my basic story is that I lost my job in the middle of the divorce trial.
Okay.
And so I was unable to file for a change in circumstance because the final order wasn't in place.
So the order was in place already while you were going through your divorce.
Right.
Okay.
And there was no opportunity for me to, I was unemployed for almost a full year.
Okay.
Before the final
you were unemployed
judgment,
a year.
Before the final judgment of divorce came through. The judge kept saying that I needed to be unemployed a year and a half before I could apply, that there was case law that I could be unemployed for a year and a half before applying for a change in circumstance. And as a result, they put me in jail.
Let me see if I understand this. Your original child support order was for $1,940 a week.
That's child support and an alimony.
Okay, okay, got it. And yet, you were unemployed,
Right.
and you were still required to pay child support at that rate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm currently on home arrest,
Okay.
and if I miss 2 weeks' payment, I could be rearrested, and I have absolutely no way to pay that amount.
But now it's my understanding that you are now working, correct?
Yes, I'm working.
Okay.
And I'm working, a low-paying job, and I'm looking for a higher-paying job.
How much are you making roughly a week?
After the garnishment and after the cost for the bracelet.
No. Just your regular job.
The regular job, it's about $400 a week.
So you make about $400 a week, yet you still have an order that requires you to pay $1,900 a week.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have a question on that. They lumped the alimony and the child support together. It wasn't just the child support.
Well, it's separate. It's separate, correct?
It's listed separately, but if you miss paying the combined amount for 2 weeks, then the bench warrant comes out for you.
The way it works out is, at least in New Jersey, the probation department monitors both spousal support and child support. That's why he's giving you a cumulative number.
Okay.
Now, it's my understanding you were required to go back to court every 2 weeks during a period.
Right.
And every 2 weeks you had to explain to the judge that you didn't have a job.
Right.
And what happened?
I had to convince the judge whether or not I was being coerced or punished, because you're not allowed to be punished, you can only be coerced, and I had to show him that I had no assets. I still never was able to get an ability to pay hearing to prove whether that was the case, even though I'm supposed to have one.
Now, you were looking for a job, correct?
Yes.
At the time.
I'm still looking for a job.
Now, did you go through a job, a headhunter or a job
Yep.
placement agency?
Yeah, and I would bring in the letters from the headhunter, bring in proof of my job search, and at one point I was let off of the bracelet, and it was understood.
Oh, so you were arrested, and then
right.
you were released.
Because I showed that I was making progress in my job search.
You know, I think
Okay.
that this is a really critical point to bring up.
Okay.
How important it is to demonstrate to a court that you're making an effort.
But it sounds like it didn't even matter here, Alex.
Right, it didn't matter because as soon as 2 weeks passed after they had let me go, another bench warrant was issued.
So even though you went and you got a job placement agency to provide third-party proof to confirm that you were in fact looking for a job, they were sending you on interviews, correct?
Right. Yes.
And you would bring that into the judge every 2 weeks. You were eventually arrested again.
Yeah, I was rearrested. I was in what's called the work release program, where you go every night, sleep in the jailhouse, in the county jail every night. They let you out to work. And then just this past week, with the help of the Custodial Support Foundation, I was able to get on the home confinement.
Wow. You know, that's an interesting, I mean, this is...
That's very interesting. I mean, to hear that a judge would, if you're, you know, I have to be fair, you know, whether you're custodial or non-custodial, you have to have a humane aspect to this whole thing as well. And to have a non-custodial parent appearing every 2 weeks in front of a judge, providing that they've been looking, that they're not yielding any result, and still get incarcerated, I think that's...
Well, and by the same token, I agree with what you said originally, which is that just because I'm a non-custodial parent doesn't mean that I don't feel a responsibility to provide for my kids.
Okay,
it's just I agree with that. And the only thing I would say is that, I don't know, we got rid of debtors' prisons in this country, and right now, at least in my county, there's 50 guys sleeping there every night because they owe child support.
You know, something that I think needs to be touched on as to, it's easy to say, well, judge has to be humane, or the finder of fact needs to be. There's also the reality that every non-custodial parent is not as responsible as somebody like Arrears.
Very
because
much so.
The thing is, and remember, they're seeing all of these cases of all of these people who come back again and again who didn't find a job.
Purposely, which you say, who may have not
That's
tried.
not.
That's where
There's two issues.
Okay.
If you could let me just.
You got it,
Two
Alice.
issues would be, one, they're trying to find a job.
Okay.
They're having answers to, did you look for a job, to find something to do.
Okay.
And the judge will say, find anything to do. The other option, there are some individuals who will, as soon as they are given a child support number, will say, up, I'm out of here. They'll either get themselves fired, they'll quit their jobs. Those guys coming in front of a judge.
Or those non-custodial parents, because I don't like to say that.
We can say those non-custodial parents, but the thing is that, imagine if you're a judge and you hear like 15 cases of non-custodial parents, and you've got like 10 who have some excuse or some lack of concern or some lack of effort. You know what? These people ruin it for the people who are really trying hard, who are really working as minimum wage jobs, who are trying to make ends meet, who are trying to make their obligations. But these judges, after what they hear so frequently, are reluctant to give somebody a break.
So we're all in agreement that once a non-custodial parent has a significant, and it's my understanding from looking at the numbers, yours was a significant change in income, that the judge should immediately allow, or the court system should immediately allow a downward modification. To go to 2 years or a year and a half, that's a jail sentence within itself.
I think there should definitely be a downward modification, but how do you gauge that when, because this is when it's such a fine line.
Okay.
Because I am the custodial parent who believe that I don't care what your situation is, you need to find a way. Because as a custodial parent, I'm trying to find a way. Okay. So at no point should you be let off the hook. Right. But it's a whole different story when there's that area. That's a huge gray area.
That's another question.
In that, because I think there should be a downward modification.
Okay.
Okay, in accordance to what you can prove and bring in. You have income to say this is what I'm making, but you have that same flip side where you have so many, like your case is like 1 in 99. You understand the percentages?
But he's still he's still a 1.
I understand, but the percentages are so low that you have other people who do exactly what she say. Who who I've heard plenty of stories, and I have stories as well. Okay. That
Well, we're gonna have to wrap this segment up.
I don't like that job.
Hold on a second. We're gonna have to wrap this segment because but I want to ask one question. Should an arrest warrant be issued against a non-custodial parent that has arrears, that's unemployed?
I think if he's not complying with the law, if he's dipping and dodging and not showing up, yes.
He's showing up. He's showing up. He's proving that he's working. Should an arrest warrant be issued? You know what? We're going to have to pause here. We're going to come back, in the second part of this show, we're going to discuss issues related to this topic, and we're going to talk about whether an arrest warrant should be issued against a non-custodial parent that is unemployed.
Are you owed child support?
Does the non-custodial parent of your children avoid your calls, hide their income and assets, or has relocated to prevent paying child support?
The Custodial Support Foundation provides you with the services to begin receiving the child support your children need.
Call 855-851-HELP now to receive the help your children deserve.
Welcome back. We're discussing issues related to non-custodial parents. We're talking about issues that deal with non-custodial parents specifically that have lost their jobs and yet are still required to maintain their child support obligations. You're a police officer. Should an arrest warrant be issued against a non-custodial parent that has lost their job and can't meet their child support obligation?
They can't make the child support obligation part.
Because they're unemployed.
Well, if they can show good faith that they are trying to, do something, then I would say no. But if they just, I lost my job, now I'm going to duck my responsibility, then yes. So I think it's probably a case-by-case basis. It depends.
Okay.
I have to agree with you, Gerald, because that was what I was thinking. It depends on the case entirely.
I agree. And I agree with both of you. Absolutely. Now, moving on. Is it possible, once a non-custodial parent has a warrant, okay, for them to go to court and before entering into some type of payment plan, or better yet, is it possible to enter into a payment plan with a warrant and have that warrant lifted and not be apprehended?
That depends on the state you live in.
Okay.
And quite honestly, most courts prefer to discuss ways of making it work.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't believe anybody wants non-custodial or custodial or anybody else. It costs the taxpayers money.
That's
It
right.
is a burden on the children. It is a burden on both custodial, because they have to deal with full-time with the kid around the clock,
Okay.
child, and non-custodial because they're dealing with the threat of being arrested and often being incarcerated. Everybody at the end of the day knows that is not likely to be the best option for any part of this family.
Well, I can tell you this. In this economy, first of all, once you're arrested, it makes it even more difficult to find a job. When you've got to fill out a job application, and there's that, I call it the death box. Have you ever been arrested? And you have to check yes. You have significantly limited, or your ability to be hired is significantly limited. Now, take your situation. You had never been arrested before, right? And yet, once you were arrested because they wouldn't reduce your child support obligation, they damaged your ability to even find a job.
Well, I have to go into job interviews wearing an ankle bracelet now, and you have to convince somebody that you're wearing it because you're unemployed, not that you did some other crime, that's what they would assume.
Wow. And once that, I mean, does that help a child? Does that help the child? Because once you take one of the parents that's providing child support and you reduce their earning capacity, are you truly helping the child?
Well, you didn't ask me the question of whether someone should be arrested,
Okay.
and I think it's just counterproductive to the whole process.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. You think it's counterproductive?
Not in the best interest of the children, and it's not. I was arrested in front of my children. It's not in the best interest of my ex-wife.
In your circumstance, I'm sure there are a lot of people that will agree. I'm sure there are a lot of people that will agree. But moving on, what should a parent do, a custodial parent, if they owe arrears? Okay, what programs are available? What services are available? No, better yet, what's the first thing? If you owe arrears and you know you owe arrears and a warrant has been issued for your arrest, what's the first thing that you should do, Alex?
Make a payment so that when you have to go in for your two-week review, which is what it would be in New Jersey, that you can say to the judge, I'm making a good faith effort to pay.
So you should make a payment even before getting an attorney?
Yeah, there's no reason not to. If you can afford to make a payment, do it, because the judge is going to look on the longevity of time that you've been making a good faith effort.
Okay.
And they have discretion whether or not to enforce or not enforce. If you know you're in arrears, go get yourself a job the day before you're going to the hearing.
But
what
suppose
judge
you
is
can't
going
get
to
a
believe?
job.
I'm just saying,
Okay.
for example,
Okay.
you got a job one day. You go in and you say, Your Honor, I got a job. I'm making a good faith effort. You are going to get laughed out of the courtroom, basically, because it's not sincere. You got somebody who comes in, has been working through the steps, working through the process, has consistently, even for a month. The judges have discretion. So it isn't like you have a warrant and suddenly you're picked up. That's
Understood.
not the way it goes.
Well, we know that. Excuse me. Okay. What happens if you have a warrant, you have to make an appearance, you don't have a job? Would you suggest getting an attorney?
Oh, yeah. And there's several resources.
There's also the amnesty program. Talk to me about that.
The amnesty program is an interesting program because the project is designed to help both sides of the argument. Basically, it is in everybody's best interest if custodial can collect and if non-custodial is contributing. As far as I'm concerned, if those two things go on at the same time,
Okay.
it's in the best interest of the child.
Okay. You
Now-
you went through that program,
Yes.
correct? What was your experience?
My experience so far has been great. I mean, I went from the work release to the home confinement,
Okay.
and the next step is to work on getting a downward modification, which
Right,
is
but
what I
they-
desperately need.
But they were able to reduce your obligation, immediate
Yes.
obligation, from significantly to what, like $100 a week? I understand it's something in that range.
My condition of release was reduced by 20%.
Wow, that's significant. I mean, that is significant. So, I mean, talk to me some more about the program, Alex.
Basically, what we do is we'll have an attorney meet with people who are not just have warrants, but typically people who already have found themselves in some sort of incarceration, work release, home confinement sort of situation.
Driver's licenses suspended and things like that.
Right, and the
Okay.
thing is that what they are able to do is put a condition, work on things like a condition of release, work on letting probation know. And you know what, during that time, more
Letting
arrears-
probation know, don't lose that thought. Go ahead. You were saying letting probation know. I want to get that thought out. You said letting probation know.
Well, what it is letting probation know the situation,
Okay.
and what they will do is they will hold off sometimes, not all the time, on a warrant. There's nothing automatic about when it lifts and when it doesn't.
Gotcha.
But if there's an understanding, like I said, an arrears may continue to accrue
Right.
if you can't make the full amount. But it's unlikely that you won't be able to at least negotiate what would be an acceptable amount to court and to not have a warrant executed against you.
Okay.
What they'll do, they can do things like 2-week warrant status, meaning if you don't pay in 2 weeks, the warrant's going to be reissued.
Gotcha.
Or and those amounts to be paid,
Okay.
including a portion towards arrears,
Okay.
they can be negotiated, but the arrears amount is not going to, they're not going to say, okay, let's cut a third off of your arrears.
Right.
So the amount of money at the end of the day for the children is
Remains
the
in
same.
effect. Right.
Right. It's just the length of time that they're permitted to pay for it.
Well, you know, this has been very, very informative. I mean, Ari, you know, I can say I sympathize with your situation because, you know, to damage a non-custodial parent's earning capacity, you know, I thoroughly believe does not help a child. You know, I mean, you're in the financial industry, you know, it's very difficult to find a job in that industry unless you have a stellar background. I mean, financial institutions are required to do background checks, and yet, you know, your situation, you know, put you in a position where you could not get a downward modification, which subsequently was a jail sentence there. Because when you can't get a downward modification and you have a substantial obligation, it's only going to be you have a very short window before the system will trigger a warrant. Well, that concludes this episode. We want you to stay tuned because we're going to come back with another part dealing with issues related to non-custodial parents. We're going to talk about specifically, is the child support system fair to non-custodial parents as well as custodial parents? Thank you.
Are you owed child support?
Does the non-custodial parent of your children avoid your calls, hide their income and assets, or has relocated to prevent paying child support?
The Custodial Support Foundation provides you with the services to begin receiving the child support your children need.
Call 855-851-HELP now to receive the help your children deserve.